My sense is that most sales leaders become sales leaders because they were great salespeople. And when that happens, when they get promoted without the right preparation, then they generally commit one of two major blunders that really compromise their sales team's performance. We'll talk about that next on Sales Untraining. This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. Welcome to Sales Untraining, your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. Really great to have you on board. Hope you will like and subscribe to the podcast. Also share it with anybody who has any interest in improving the sales training side of what they do as a sales leader or a sales manager. Today we talk about one of those things that we commonly see. Sales leaders get promoted into sales leadership because they were great at selling. Happened in your place? I suspect so. Listen, I was Exhibit A. I've talked about this before. I was that guy. I'd done very, very well, and there was a district sales manager position open, and they asked me to take that role. And of course, enthusiastically, I took the job. Why wouldn't I? Because it's moving up the career ladder and improving your opportunities to make money and all of the things that go with that, not to mention the ego associated with it. But as happens with so many sales managers, absolutely happened with me. The training was extensive and complex. It sounded like this. Good luck. That was it. There was no explanation that my role was changing. The expectation was changing. It's just all understood. Salespeople sell, sales managers manage. And what does that mean? Well, if that's not very clearly explained to the individual who's just been promoted, then what do you think they're going to think about the role? Well, they're going to think that I got promoted because I'm a great salesperson, so I need to put that on steroids. Now, some of you may be saying, well, no, I understood. I need to manage a team and I need to create a team of individuals, and my role is to develop a team of players and all of that. Well, good. But do you know exactly what that means? And did you perceive it at the time? You know about how you go about doing that? Because most salespeople who become sales managers get promoted, I think typically fall in the same trap that I did. And that is, I simply got this job because I know more than anybody else. I am better at selling the products than anyone else. So if anyone is struggling with their selling, then it is up to me to step in and do the job for them. Oh, major blunder number 1 is sales leaders who step in front of their salespeople because they're just not capable. Well, they're certainly not as capable as the sales leader is. The recently promoted sales superstar who becomes sales leader, who is going to think naturally, I got this job because I'm a great salesperson. You see, therein lies the real mistake that we make corporately, is that we don't sit down and discuss the fact that your role has changed dramatically. The expectations we have of you are quite different than what you have in your mind. No longer do we ask you to make those sales, at least consistently. Clearly, sales managers can assist, will create relationships with key accounts, and so forth and so on. But most sales leaders will just step in front of others. We've talked about it before on the show, and it probably will come up many times over again because it's so common. And so the big blunder, number 1, is to simply step in front of your salespeople and close deals for them. And it's way too common. The question is, how do you overcome it? Let's say you're that person right now. What in the world are you going to do right now to change that role, to change what you're doing? If you've come to the recognition and the realization that, wow, that is me, well, what you've become is a self-limiting team of 1. You have some people working for you, but now they're your assistants They're not your team in the field. No, you become the salesperson, the super doer. You become the super sales star. And you're out closing deals, and you're doing that because, well, most times because of fear. If I don't close this deal, it doesn't get closed. And how much revenue does that cost me? If I don't close this deal, it doesn't get closed. And I'm going to look bad in front of my boss. I'm not going to look like they should have promoted me into this role. Maybe they made a bad decision. That's what they're going to think. Well, the blame, sadly, doesn't lie with you. It lies with the person who promoted you, the corporate entity that promoted you. But once you recognize it, you have to change it. If you don't, you're going to run into all kinds of problems. First and foremost, you're going to limit your production. That's the challenge. Now, you can solve that problem short term, obviously, by stepping in front of your salespeople and closing deals. But how long can you continue to do that? How long can you continue to do the work that other people should be doing, the people that you should be training and developing? Now, don't get me wrong. As a sales leader, there are times when you are going to help, but the objective is not to step in front and do it. It's to assist in the process while they're learning and growing and developing along the way. And if that's what's happening, fantastic. That can be part of the training/coaching process. But that's not what I see, and certainly not what I did. I was actually out there closing the deals and making things happen, because if we didn't, it was going to reflect poorly on me. I mean, those problems are going to continue to mount, and after a while, there's going to be burnout. And the fact of the matter is, if you've got A players, you're going to lose them because they want to grow and develop and excel on their own. And if you're coaching a bunch of B and C level players, you're never going to create that consistent, predictable revenue that you desperately need to be hyper successful in the role. Well, that's problem number one. Problem number two is the sales leader who's in exactly the same position, who doesn't understand that their role has changed, but they understand their role to be sales manager. So they turn hard to the management role. They become desk jockeys. They get enamored with spreadsheets and budgets and meetings and managing CRM pipelines and, reviewing day-to-day activities and all of those kinds of things. They're not focused on developing salespeople. They're focused on, quote unquote, managing them, but they're not managing them. They're not leading their salespeople. They're not developing them into more capable players. Instead, what they're doing is managing the processes and activities around them. I can't tell you how many times I've been around sales managers who are fantastic with CRM packages. They know how to create more reports than you and I could ever digest, but that's what they do. And they go to meetings and they work out budgets and they work on all kinds of things that really don't create more effective salespeople. That's big blunder number two, is to morph into a role as you perceive it in your mind. In fact, both of these are the same thing. I have a perception of what that role is, and without someone making it clear what that role looks like, then I wind up going down the wrong path. It is the pretty rare salesperson turned sales leader who figures out, I don't know what I'm doing as a leader, but I do know what my objective is. I need to grow and develop salespeople. I need to learn coaching skills. I need to learn to communicate and help them build their pipeline by reviewing that pipeline and creating an accountability to that pipeline. And on it goes. It's the rare person who does that. They go out and they find out, they figure it out, they get a mentor, they get a coach, or they do a lot of reading of a lot of good material that's out there, and they sort of figure it out on their own. But folks, that's incredibly rare. The much more common path is to go down one of these two areas that are just huge blunders, and it leads to a lack of confidence from the sales leader. They begin to think, maybe I just don't have what it takes, or maybe my people just don't get it. You just can't find good salespeople like me. Instead, they're lazy and they're entitled and they don't work hard and they're not disciplined and they're not committed. And the problem is we just got you started off completely on the wrong foot. Are you committing one of these two blunders? Listen, you've got to make significant changes. All right. Number one, I talked about, you've got to figure out that your role is to train and coach. And if you're not good at it, you need to find resources. They're everywhere, including direct sales coaches from people like me, good books that you can read. I mean, there's all kinds of ways, and maybe you just need to go directly to your leader and say, hey, I have figured out very quickly I'm not the sales coach, developer of salespeople that I need to be. I'm great at sales, but I'm not so good at having the difficult conversations and practicing and role-playing with salespeople and doing all of those kinds of things. Or number two, if you find yourself stuck in the management minutia, you need to take a hard look at what you're doing and see what needs to change. You will lose the respect and confidence and trust of your salespeople if you manage by CRM or by budgets or by activity reviews. They need your help. They need development. The question is, are you the person that's going to do that? Well, coming up next, I'm going to give you a way to solve the problem, get in front of the problem, and make it very clear to an aspiring sales manager exactly what you expect that role to be. Stay with me. Hey, thanks for making Sales Untraining your first listen of the week. And if you find something you like, if you hear something that's interesting, I hope you'll share it with somebody you know. You can find out more about me at bizlockerroom.com or email me, kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Now back to the show. Most salespeople go into some sort of sales call or presentation, and all they're doing is thinking about what they're going to say next because they're still in the conscious part of their brain trying to recall what it is that they should do next or what part of the solution they should talk about next or how they should present it. They often miss the most obvious questions and buying cues and other things that are incredibly important. The whole objective is to become so good and so comfortable with what you do and what you sell and your knowledge of the industry and the solution and how it impacts their business, all of those things, so that you can focus on dialogue. Well, to do that, I've got to get completely comfortable with those things. Hence, practice. Welcome back. I'm Kelly Riggs, and this is Sales Untraining, your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. Well, how do we go about solving this problem, this very predictable problem? Because everybody's done it, and it's been going on as long as I can remember. We take a great salesperson, promote them to sales leader, and the results are predictable. So how do you solve it? Well, number one, first and foremost, you've got to create the expectation that your role is changing. While you are a phenomenal salesperson, that's not really our expectation for you to be super salesperson and just have some people working for you. No, quite differently. We expect you to develop people, develop their skills, their capabilities, to improve their performance to minimum standards and above, to be able to identify and hire effective sales talent, to be able to onboard them effectively, and to be able to create a team culture where they can thrive, to be someone who develops and coaches talent to exceed their potential. Yeah, because typically their potential in their minds is not anywhere near what they're capable of. Your role as a sales leader is to transform that potential into real performance. That's a different set of skills. And those expectations have to be crystal clear, number one. Number two, how about we prepare them for the role? The way you prepare them for that role is to get them some training, right? Maybe even beginning with an assessment to see what their leadership capabilities are, to find out if they're the kind of people who can actually coach and train. Listen, the very, very, very best salespeople, you actually don't want as sales leaders unless you've taken them through a full scale leadership training and development curriculum and they have demonstrated that they've got it. You know why? Because great salespeople often make very bad sales leaders because they lack patience. They just don't understand why people don't get it. They don't have the patience to coach and train. They've not had to learn it and understand it at a level that most people do because they're just good at it. They're unicorns. It happens. The old born salesperson thing, well, I hate the term, but on occasion you have people who are really great at what they do. And I don't know that they're born to it, but they really can't explain why they just get it. What I need as a sales leader is someone who gets it, but knows how they got there and can transfer that knowledge to the people around them. You've got to put them in that role before they ever get there. So first, get them that training, right? Make sure that they get the training that they need in leadership. Certainly not selling skills, but in leadership. But the best way to do that, in my experience, is to make that training live, to put them with a mentor or a coach that can take them down that path and show them exactly what it looks like, to let them experience it, to let them see it in action. They have to learn how to set their own clear expectations of their people, have difficult coaching conversations, to do reviews of activity and pipelines, the kinds of things that leaders do to ensure that people grow and that they reach their objectives. Well, that sounds great, but Kelly, what if I've already got someone who's in the role and they're struggling? Get them a coach now. If you believe they have the capacity, the capability to be an effective sales leader, but they've gone down one of those two paths and you need to pull them out, it's going to be very hard to do it just with some training or some curriculum designed to teach them leadership. Get them a sales leadership coach. Yes, they're out there. Yes, I'm one of them, but they're out there. And that is the very best thing you can do, is to intercede on their behalf, get them with someone that can coach them and train them out of that rut, redirect them, and teach them exactly what it means to be a great sales leader. One of the reasons why sales training is so incredibly ineffective is we just haven't set the expectation with that new sales leader. That's what you're supposed to be good at. And you've got to focus on those gaps and capabilities and performance of each individual salesperson and grow and develop them. Doing it for them or becoming a desk jockey who's great at CRM or budgets or meetings is not your role at all. I'm Kelly Riggs. This is Sales Untraining. I'll see you next time.
Sales Untraining is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.